And welcome, everyone. We are very delighted to have Dr. Li-meng come back again today to give us an update. She, of course, you know her from her outspoken interviews and writings on her concerns about the source of the coronavirus and the involvement of the CCP and the People's Liberation Army. On the heels of Dr. David Martin's interview last week, I've got a ton of other questions for her about the U.S. involvement in all these things. This story just gets layer upon layer. The more I learn about it, the more intrigued I become. Again, we are coming up on tomorrow. We have Ivor coming. That'll be at 1 o'clock. Pacific time. We're going to be a little early. And on Thursday, Tom Renz comes back to give us some of his data about counter-espionage activities, something I'm going to ask Li-meng about today as well. That will be at 3 o'clock. Both are going to be with Dr. Kelly. Let's get right to it.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for Christ's sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
There are 3 steps to great-looking, glowing complexion in the summer. Of course, apply sunscreen, stay hydrated, and use the amazing skincare products from our friends at Genucel. Most retinol creams are not recommended for sunlight, but Genucel's Ultra Retinol uses a powerful plant extract retinol. It's an alternative called bakuchiol, which helps the skin stay hydrated, smooths out fine lines without harsh side effects, and it is safe to use outside under your sunscreen. Genucel works so well, you can see the results in this unplanned live moment on our show when the Redness Repair Cream repaired my skin in just minutes right before your eyes. And Susan and I love Genucel so much, we created our affordable bundles at up to 72% off of our favorite products at genucel.com/Drew. And just for the summer, every subscription includes a customized summer spa gift box absolutely free.
I know I'm a snob about the products I use on my face. Everybody knows it. Every time I go to the dermatologist's office, they're just rows and rows of different creams. And then when I get to the counter, they're overpriced. All kinds of products that you can all find at genucel.com.
See what's in our bundles. Get ready to show off your summertime skin. Go to genucel.com/Drew. That's GENUCEL.com/DREW. genucel.com/Drew. And remember to use the code Drew at checkout for extra savings. I want to share with you a teeth whitening system that goes beyond merely enhancing your smile. Primal Life Organics Real White Teeth Whitening System offers convenience and rapid results without harsh chemicals. Light, blue light for whitening, red light for gum and oral hygiene, and you can just do both if you wish. Works naturally, promoting gum healing, tooth remineralization, gives you a brighter and a healthier smile. Again, no peroxide involved. Consistent usage yields remarkable results. Take this opportunity to transform your smile and at the same time optimize your oral health. Aim for 5 times a week for the best outcomes. Discover more about this remarkable teeth whitening system and other products at drdrew.com/primal today. That again is drdrew.com/PRIMAL. Be sure to use that link for 60% off. drdrew.com/PRIMAL. Do it today for 60% off. And we're having a slight glitch, I think, with our Twitter Spaces. We're still trying to get that up and running, so perhaps a little bit later I'll have a chance to take calls. But as I was telling you in the little piece we introed with, Li-meng is a Chinese virologist. She's a physician. She was involved in the research and development of the coronavirus backbone. And when she started asking questions, she was essentially told she would be disappeared if she continued asking questions. That was the point at which I'm sure there's more to the story. I'll ask her to tell a little bit of the detail. She fled, and she is still in hiding. Though you can listen to her and watch her. That is on the, oh gosh, help me here. You can follow her on Twitter at DRLIMENGYAN1. You can also listen to her show, The Voice of Dr. Yan, on America Out Loud Radio Network. Please welcome Li-meng. Welcome back.
Thank you, Dr. Zhu.
So tell him, if you wouldn't mind, again, I was like just reviewing so people understand who may have not been introduced to you in the past, a brief sketch on what your career was and when you realized there was something fishy going on and maybe what you've learned since.
So my background actually is a medical doctor, and then later I came to from China. I obtained my MD degree from two top medical university, and then I went to the University of Hong Kong for study. And after that, I turned to do the virology study because I was invited by the leader of the WHO reference lab, Dr. Malik Paris, to join their team. So I turned to become a virologist and work in the WHO lab for 5 years, handling influenza and other infectious disease virus, as well as the vaccine development. So at the end of 2019, the last day, I was secretly assigned by my supervisor, the WHO expert, Dr. Li-meng, in that lab to investigate the COVID-19 virus. At that time, we just know there was a novel coronavirus happened in Wuhan. They wanted me to use my very unique but massive network back to China to understand what happened. So briefly, I quickly collect a lot of information from headquarters office of China CDC to local Wuhan hospital, from the military to civil labs. And then I report to you in a real-time manner. And clearly, these WHO experts in my team get the information. They know that, China's cover up, and more words is this is something very fishy. However, they choose to help China. They choose to work with WHO to cover it up, including denying the human-to-human transmission for so long. And later on, until mid-January, when I do more investigation, they wanted me to be the person to help them find the evidence of raccoon dog in the Wuhan wet market. And then they thought that raccoon dog would be the zoonotic host. And the more study I did, more thing I realized. Finally, I realized that this is based on the sequence knowledge. This virus SARS-CoV-2 was developed based on People's Liberation Army scientists, because they own a very unique virus they obtained from East China. They name it as JC45. And also JXC21, that is a twin strain. And they found it in 2015 to 2017, do modification, working with Wuhan Institute of Virology and other People's Liberation Army lab, other civil labs, including my lab, provides the knowledge. Finally, they get SARS-CoV-2. However, they want you to believe the release of SARS-CoV-2 is from the raccoon dog from the wet market. So altogether, I start to review the choose from 19th January 2020.
Let me stop you because as time has gone on, as I said, I've learned many layers to this story. One was I went back and looked carefully at the Nature article that was put out, Kristen Anderson and that whole group. And I found their argument in that article to be, it was a letter, it wasn't even an article. It was just, that's why they were able to turn it around so fast. But what were your critiques of that letter? I found it to be reasonably convincing. Maybe not right, but it was reasonably convincing. What did you think?
When I read that article, I understand what happened, because that article was submitted and published at the end of February, I remember, which is after the Lancet article, a Lancet letter signed by 27 scientists. They have already signed to claim that the SARS-CoV-2 come from nature, definitely not from lab, and praise Chinese Communist Party. And then Kristen Anderson and other people published that article. I know they will publish such article because when I report what I get with evidence to my boss, and also it goes to the big boss, Malik Paris. So Malik Paris' feedback is he will work with the Germany's virologist, Christine Dawson, to write a Nature Origin article. And he immediately showed his denial of lab origin. Later, because these
so hold
things
on.
become...
So I want to make sure I want to drill into this as much as I can, so I really try to understand it. So you were invited to be part of that study group that wrote the Nature article. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Is that true? Yes or no? No. Okay.
No,
But I want to know, when you read the article, I understand. What is your criticism, though? I understand that you're looking at the behavior and saying, oh my goodness, they were covering this up. But what specific criticism do you have of the Nature article itself? Because when I sat and really read it, I thought, well, I could see why these guys convinced themselves of this.
I see what you mean. So besides the things behind this article, just based on this article, they never denied the real possibility of lab origin. But what they did is they use a lot of scientific words to let you get into their possibility. And they told you that, say, there are so many viruses previously were proven from nature, and we are the scientists, we control the voice. You should listen to me. So don't think about the lab origin. You see, possibly this come from nature, and the other possible it can come from nature, and somehow we think it can come from nature. So this is something at that time, from my perspective, I would say they have actually prepare for one day someone will reveal their tricks, and they can say, oh, we are scientists, we are innocent, we believe it comes from nature because of this, and so I don't know, it can come from lab. So that's what they want.
Okay, and you mentioned early on the raccoon dog. I thought pangolin is that the same thing? When they say pangolin, is it the same as a raccoon dog? Raccoon dog, I think things down in Costa Rica, right? Yeah, it's like a panda dog, right?
Pangolin is the one which eat ant. Looks like small,
like an anteater, right?
Yeah, so cute.
It's like
and
an aardvark.
Raccoon dog is
aardvark. It's cute.
Raccoon dog is also cute, but it's not raccoon, it's not dog. It's like civet cat. It's more like small fluffy fox or something. So what they want, CCP doesn't have only one protocol to perfect this nature origin theory. They want you to believe that there are enough evidence they can provide you little by little. So according to their, because when I started to review it, it was back to middle January 2020 from the Chinese YouTube blog. And at that time, it is very influential. And I can get feedback even from my friends, although they don't know I'm the whistleblower. So China immediately respond to that. That's why they start to let Xi Zhengli, the bad woman in Wuhan, to talk about, we found some virus from our drawer, which we obtained 10 years ago from Yunnan, West China. And then they say it looks similar, 96% similar to SARS-2. It's called RATG13. And also they start to use People's Liberation Army scientists working with civil scientists, including some of my colleagues in Hong Kong University, to publish the pangolin virus. And these are actually fabricated because I have examined these papers in my Yan reports. It shows they have made up data, and just because they need to fulfill some theory. So pangolin, according to them, will be something carry similar things and maybe transmit it to bat, and the bat transmit to human. And they also want the raccoon dog, because you will see, especially this year, several more articles talking about the raccoon dog is a host, although there is no evidence, but they insist, because according to the best protocol, China, my lab in Hong Kong, have found that the SARS-1 in 2003 came from the bat and then to the civet cat in Guangzhou wet market to human. So if we can show that, again, bat come to wet market, or maybe pangolin to bat to wet market in Wuhan to a raccoon dog, which is similar to civet cat, then people should not question it, because we already have such story established. So you should believe this story again. That's why this year.
Is that SARS-1 story? Is that accurate, the
Some
SARS-1
months,
story, or is that another made-up story? Because let me ask, the reason I'm asking that is I don't know if you're familiar with David Martin, but we interviewed him last week, and his claim is that the research organization with Richard Barrick, is that his name? Ralph Barrick at Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, was working on some of these same viruses back before SARS-1. And he's worried that that's where it came from, and that it was during the Obama administration that, if I get these details right, that research that Barrick was doing was sent to China and sent to the Ukraine. Do you know anything about that part of the story?
I haven't talked to Dr. Martin, and I have listened to some of his interview. What I can say is, based on the part I have listened to, maybe not all of his statement, and there's something really credible because he had worked in such lab before at that time. And for me, back to 1990 to 2000, I was just a kid, so I don't have much information at that time, but what I can tell you is based on my research, mainly I focus on CCP's bioweapon study and other things these years. And back to 1980s, China has already started to send their scientists, virologists, go to US. And in 1996, there was already some scientists working with Ralph Barrick in North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Right.
And then Ralph
I'm aware of
Barrick
that.
very, sorry.
Go ahead, you finish. You got very?
Okay. So China has already get collaboration with Ralph Barrick back to at least 2000 publicly. And at that time, Ralph Barrick, his study was not that influential, but somehow China sees the potential capacity of his study, and they start to get more and more collaboration. And actually, CCP has using the establishment with America for the diplomatic relations from end of 1970s to deliver their academic spies to the United States. And so remember, CCP learned all these things from Soviet Union. And their top scientist, the virologist, one of the top bioweapon virologist, studied from Soviet Union for several years with excellent score back to 1950s. So they have cultivated their students sent to US when they see you are working on biodefense, study vaccines, working on potential bioweapon things. I mean, just think about why don't they think about to steal your technology and work back in their labs and attack you?
I got to say, I'm beginning to think that there's layers and layers to this bioweapon story. And there may be espionage and counter-espionage, right? I mean, who knows what about whom, and who's trying to keep an eye on whom, why? And, you know, it's U.S., it's China, it's Soviet Union, it's the Ukraine. I don't know who else is involved with this, but it's deeply worrisome. And I know that although we outlawed the so-called gain-of-function research here, obviously we outsourced it right at the same time that we increased Dr. Fauci's salary to be the highest paid federal official in the land. Interesting. Just all very interesting and disturbing. And I wish we could know more, but I mean, maybe we can't. I don't know. But one of the things that if I'd been smarter and thought about it for 2 seconds, I would have realized that, you know, I used to be kind of defensive going, well, of course they have to do these gain of function to, you know, develop some of the vaccines against these things to anticipate where they might be. No, it's the opposite. When you're developing a bioweapon, you want to have a vaccine for that bioweapon so your people and your army can be protected while your enemy is not protected, right? They must go hand in hand. The vaccine and bioweapon research must always be completely simultaneous. Is that accurate?
So when this, according to CCP's People's Liberation Army document, they have well documented when you start to study the bioweapon, you definitely want to get a countermeasure, right? It can be antidote or vaccine. And also, if the vaccine can be used as bioweapons, they will also think about that. However, back to this case, I would say based on information we had already, it all pointed to China for purposely release SARS-CoV-2 as a bioweapon, and their countermeasure, their vaccine actually doesn't work well. So that is a point.
What do you feel now, as time has gone on, about the lab leak hypothesis, theory, fact, however you want to think about it? Why would, for instance, why would this country go to such lengths to try to avoid talking about that? What is our, I mean, unless it's that the Chinese have infiltrated so deeply that they are influencing some of the, I don't know. What do you say? I'm trying to figure this out all the time. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but go ahead.
It's all like, as you said, layers by layers, like the onion. We're peeling the onion. So the point is, first, it come out at a point that people without don't have any awareness of that. So all in a sudden, so at that time, why I was appointed as investigator, because except for the very few people in China, even back to Hong Kong, we don't have any information. WHO, US, you all rely on my report and then go to the scientists and then to make some other decision. And of course, they may have other sources, but I haven't heard about this kind of whistleblowers. And then, so from the outbreak, actually, it should be around end of October to early November, when the real outbreak start to infect more Wuhan people. Until early March, it come to US. 4 months, you don't have any way to get this virus. Even like Stanford or NIH scientists, they want to publish the article on COVID-19. They get to us, my lab, to get samples to do the research. So in this case, it offered China enough time to prepare for the following propaganda and also using their network. They really have massive network in US for decades, for 40 years at least, plus someone stayed here longer. And they know how to use academic collaboration, commercial collaboration, political things to tie all these people with them. So these people might kind of sticky to the spider net. And then China will, you say China promote anti-Asian, anti-Chinese. These are, if you dare to blame China for the virus origin, you will be the anti-Asian. And then they will create more things like promote the vaccines and promote other things. To pharmaceutical company will gain a lot of benefits in this kind of pandemic. And then this kind of benefits will make them tend to collaborate with nature origin, because you know this come from nature, you immediately think about you need a vaccine. But if you know it come from the biolab, this is bioweapon, you will definitely think about countermeasurement rather than vaccine. So this is this kind of logic. Altogether, China knows how Americans think about. Chinese government know America, and they study America for so many years, and they have their puppies like Fauci, Peter Daszak, Ralph Baric. They have their Communist International, like my boss, Malik Paris, and also Dr. Tedros in WHO. Altogether, politicians, journalists, all the other people have to listen to these experts. So that make it very difficult for people to pursue the truth, especially back to the beginning of the pandemic.
What do you think about the new international so-called treaty that the World Health Organization is pushing forward to try to have essentially authority over sovereign nations and elected officials? Just curious what your opinion is.
Well, I want to say that many of the experts, especially in the virology field, because I work in this field, they are working with CCP or they are helping CCP. And in this case, you should not trust the international organization if they have such clear tendency to pro-CCP in their operations, because to use international organizations to reshape the international regulations and also create the concept to serve for CCP's fascism as CCP's national strategy.
Well, it seems like the World Health Organization has gone well beyond the CCP strategy, where they want, nature of all types to have equivalent valence and importance to humanity. So not just animals, but also geology to be equally important as yourself or any other human agent. That doesn't sound like the CCP to me. It sounds like the World Health Organization marching off into its own direction. But we'll leave that for a second. I'll tell you what I want to do. You had mentioned the spider web of connections amongst the CCP and the academics here in this country. We have this crazy biolab in Reedley, California, discovered, a lot. I don't even understand what has gone on there, but there seems to have been a lot of very limited information coming out about what that was or what they're doing with it. So when we come back, I want you to give me your thoughts on that illegal biolab here in California. Why aren't we learning more about it? And I'm also curious if you are being, and maybe you're not able to talk about this, if you yourself are being interviewed by intelligence officials, and are they listening to you, or are they building a case, or are they even including you in any of their thinking, or are they coming around, that kind of thing. So again, you can find Dr. Li-meng Yan, Dr. Li, L-I-M-E-N-G-Y-A-N 1 on Twitter, and the voice of Dr. Yan is her radio program. We will be back with more, and if we're lucky, we'll get a Twitter Spaces up and running as well, get some calls, and we'll be right back. A lot of you have been asking for more information about how to counter the adverse effects of the spike protein from COVID infections and the COVID vaccine. The spike protein is not your friend, let's just say that. So I'm glad we have the wellness company Spike Support Formula as a sponsor, especially since renowned internist and cardiologist Dr. Peter McCullough, who's also chief scientific officer of the wellness company, is one of its champions. There's some very intriguing research around nattokinase, which might be a way to take on the spike protein. Listen to this.
So start, if you would, with talking about nattokinase, how you got to that, and where you see its application.
So with the viral infection or the vaccines, the spike protein stays within the body, and it's found in the heart, the brain, the vital organs, and it's causing problems. The Japanese have been using this for heart and vascular disease now for 20 years. It's safe. It is a form of a mild blood thinner, that it dissolves the spike protein nearly completely.
Spike Support Formula is the only product on the market containing nattokinase, dandelion root, and a host of other antioxidants, all showing promise in helping you protect yourself and your family. To order this unique, specially formulated supplement, go to drdrew.com/TWC. That is drdrew.com/TWC. Use code DREW at checkout for 10% off today. I suspect you've seen Susan and I gushing over Paleo Valley products. We love the taste and how well they fit into a paleo-based nutrition regimen. They're delicious, and we use them for travel all the time. But there's more. We are huge fans as well of Paleo Valley's grass-fed bone broth protein. It comes in 3 flavors, unflavored, vanilla, and chocolate. It's a powder you can add to really anything. We add it to coffee literally every day. Smoothies, baked dishes, just hot water dissolves really easily. The bone broth protein is made with 100% grass-fed and finished bones that are free from pesticides or antibiotics and are slow simmered to extract as much collagen as possible. As we age, collagen breaks down. That's what wrinkles are. And research shows that there are significant benefits to adding a collagen source in your diet. I don't think it's too much to say it's changed our lives. And Susan is now reporting that after drinking the bone broth for a few weeks, her hair is stronger and longer, and nails are stronger too. Try it for yourself. You can order at drdrew.com/paleovalley and use Dr. Drew at checkout to save an additional 15%. And Caleb, I wonder if you could bring in here for just a second. I think I went over to the main Twitter account to see if I could start a Twitter Spaces, and I seem to have no capacity to do anything with Spaces there. Is that what's happening?
It appears there is some sort of a Spaces issue, because I tried starting it and it wouldn't. I tried remaking the event and it wouldn't start. So it's something happening over on Twitter's side right now. But
there are other Spaces up and running.
I know. It was so confusing.
I see them.
I pressed the start button and it said it was started, and then it wouldn't allow anyone in. It's just Spaces.
Or maybe they won't let. Maybe they have some of their. Maybe some of their new stuff doesn't let you do Spaces as well as video or something? Do you think
I mean, that would be
something
weird. I mean, it's more likely that it's just a temporary spaces issue because they've had issues like this before where it's just, you just can't start the event.
Keep trying.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Do you have any questions for Li-meng when we bring her back here?
No,
I know you've been hearing all these.
Actually, I've been trying to fix the spaces.
Busy with the spaces.
So, yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch this one.
Okay, fair enough. All right, fair enough. But you watched David Martin, and I know that one got you kind of wired. Do you have any questions for her about his? So let's bring Li-meng back here, Dr. Yang.
Back in.
Okay. So hang on one second, Dr. Yan. I'm giving Caleb a chance to ask any questions if he has any, because Dr. Martin came in and laid out his whole history with the virus, and it was a very disturbing thing to hear. Caleb, did you have any questions for her based on what we heard last week?
I'm not sure if Dr. Yan would know the answer to this question, but one of the most interesting things that he brought up last week was about how this was basically how mRNA, pushing the mRNA vaccines, one of the biggest goals was to circumvent the Catholic Church's hesitations about gene editing and cloning and things like that. That was something I hadn't ever heard before. CRISPR, exactly. I had never heard that concept, but
threw that
actually
in there. I think he sort of threw that in as a hypothesis because he was saying that they were working, that Moderna was working way back with the gain of function research at Chapel Hill in the 90s, and that they had developed some mRNA type technologies then, and lo and behold, it was refined in 2019 and then rolled out completely with the project Space Force. What was that?
Warp speed. Yeah, that was the thing that jumped out to me because I had never even considered that idea of, because I mean, I grew up, my whole family grew up very, very Catholic, and so I know all of these stories leading up, and then that was a very interesting concept that I have to dig into and research more of, but I didn't know if she might have any ideas about that as well, because the Catholic Church is a very powerful organization, and they would shut down anything that goes against their beliefs, and very large group there.
Let's give her a chance. Here we go.
So, thank you, Caleb. So first, when you talk about mRNA part, I didn't listen to that content from Dr. Martin, so I don't really don't really know his statement. But when we talk about mRNA vaccine, I keep telling people, no matter what vaccine of COVID-19, it's immature. And especially back to the early beginning of the pandemic, that was very irresponsible to promote it to everyone, especially they launched the mandate policy and promote it to kids, to pregnant lady. This is very irresponsible. Just back to my background, I teach the public health for the medical doctors in their course, and this is our professional field. So in some kind of pandemic or outbreak, when you are looking for the antidotes or the way to prevent it, it's not only you need to use injection to solve it. And like COVID virus, coronavirus, actually there is no safe and efficient way. Even people have studied it for decades, and even since back to 2003, the SARS-1. After that, more people try to develop vaccines against the coronavirus. It doesn't work. Why? Because the spike protein, they will bring some side effect to people, will interfere in your immune response, and also even create inflammation and all other side effects, which will make it not good to give people. And also they can evolve very quickly. There are so many variants. Your vaccine cannot catch up this speed, and you cannot inject yourself. That will ruin your immune system. And mRNA vaccine is just one of the technology they are used for COVID vaccine. However, before COVID-19 vaccine, we never have mRNA technology applied to to pass the clinical trial applied to human. Why in a sudden, before you understand the nature of this virus, before you know what kind of the modification from People's Liberation Army's lab to this virus, without the large-scale clinical trial and long-term observation, you suddenly push it to everyone. and there are lack of data, I would say they are purposely kind of ignored when the pharmaceutical industry provided to the public. We didn't do that, so you won't think about that kind of data. But those are very important data. Long-term effect your neutral nervous system and all this.
Yeah, I mean, this is another sort of peeling the onion that I've been looking into, and it is increasingly concerning. One of the things I learned from Dr. Freeman is that the FDA, when they're trying to decide if something is a vaccine reaction, I'm using his words, they got a guy. They got just some guy that goes down and looks at the record and goes, yes, this was or was not a vaccine reaction. Think about how insane that would have been had they done that in relation to Vioxx and coronary events. This is one of the biggest scandals in the history of the pharmaceutical industry. Every cardiac event associated with Vioxx was assumed to be related to Vioxx. But with this, they send a guy down to do something that nobody can do, can determine whether an event in proximal relation to the vaccine necessarily did or did not have something with the vaccine. You just report the data. They didn't report the data. And so there's that on one side. And then there's the mandates and the pushing. That's the part that troubled me. I am convinced, and I've been looking at the data more and more and more, I'm convinced that the vaccines had a net benefit in the vulnerable, older, obese, frail. I am convinced that there was a net benefit there, that the risk was worth the reward, even though we didn't fully understand it. And even as I'm sort of coming to understand it now, I'm increasingly convinced that I did the right thing, for instance, vaccinating all my elderly patients. They seem to have derived net benefit from that. But that is a far cry from mandating children and school-age kids and pregnant women, and that's so far from protecting the people that might have died of this illness. And let me just add one more little thing to this. What bothers me is there's this continued analysis of the vaccine's performance with the original variants. Now, I just read one today that was on Omicron, and it showed that 3 vaccines of the original mRNA, not the bivalent, but the original setup, had some decent effect on reducing hospitalization. Completely gone after 3 months. I mean, completely gone. And while it reduced hospitalization by 70% in the first couple of weeks, is that from 12 hospitalizations down to 8 hospitalizations? Is that what we're talking about here? How many people were actually helped by that? And they never used death as an outcome. They never used that in any of the vaccine studies, which is another weakness. And there are just so many layers of concern to this. What are your concerns?
My concern is why America is a democratic country. Although I know Americans feel unsatisfied more and more about your society, but you're still one of the best, and actually is the beacon of freedom in the world, because you have the separation of power in your society, and it still works after almost 300 years. However, we don't have power of separation in the medical field. So that means the people who develop this countermeasures sell it to you, and also they develop bioweapon, and also they evaluate all these kind of outcomes. They give you the concept. They are all the same people in the same group. They may have the conflict of interest. They had on the agreement they signed with the pharmaceutical industry. They may be controlled by Dr. Fauci, because if you're a doctor, you don't listen to the guidance, you will be withdrawing your license. They can be the people who worked on the both sides to promote the benefits to them to make them happy. So it's like in the game, from coach to player to the judge, they are all the friends. And why do you believe they can give you a fair answer when we experience such a historic pandemic come from the lab? And behind the lab, this is a nation. So China is so powerful. They are strong enough to influence all of these people.
So tell us now what your thoughts are on that biolab in California that came to light. Was this just some sort of rogue operation, or is this a sign of something more sinister going on?
I have wrote one of the exclusive report last week on the voice of Dr. Yan. And briefly, what I can tell you, we are working with our sources back to China to look for the information behind this biolab. I don't want to call it as a biolab. It's really not a lab. It is not the sloppy lab want to make the quick money. Although, yes, they apply grant from California to make the money from your pandemic. However, based on what I have read from the court file, and also based on my experience using lab mouse, using virus, I can tell you, when this illegal lab in California is called PBI, the Prestige Biotech Inc. So this PBI is not a diagnostic lab at all. And although PBI insisted on the court file that they are going to establish more factories in US, and they are looking for the place, they are preparing for that to produce the diagnostic test products to help Americans. That is totally not true. Because for a diagnostic lab, you don't need keep lab mouse at all. Okay, you can develop your kits, you can do some other experiments, but for the lab mouse, they are not used on this purpose. And also, when you see that this lab kept almost 1,000 lab engineering mouse in the that place that is just abandoned warehouse. There is no animal facility at all. And then the owner of PBI claimed this mouse was $1 million US, and it was developed after 6 years effort. They can carry the COVID variant. We don't know what these mouse are. But from the day they moved this mouse to the abandoned warehouse, this mouse, even if worth $1 million, it suddenly dropped to zero. Why? Because that is a place cannot let the mouse have the health and the clean environment. And that's why it's already violates the biosafety laws. And that this kind of mouse are dirty now. They are contaminated. They cannot be used to do any scientific research unless you want to use it to do some non-scientific, even illegal research or experiments.
So hang on. Was this some sort of knockout mouse or something? Was it? I mean, where'd the $1 million come from?
Yeah, they said it's engineered.
Yeah, sort of okay, it's a knockout mouse. They've got their absent and ascent receptor or something. You know, they're
knockout. We don't know what exactly. Yeah. So the thing is, they have.
I'm so confused. I'm so confused by this. So let me again. I make sure I'm getting what you're saying. So on one hand, you say it's just a sloppy attempt to take advantage of the opportunity of COVID-19 in this country, right? That's one. That's a possibility. No,
it's not.
It's a possibility,
lab,
right?
It's a Grady lab.
What kind of lab?
Grady. They just want. They are not the one really working on diagnostic, and they are the one who really want to get your money when they are doing illegal things.
And what would those illegal things be? What is it you're speculating they're doing? I don't understand that part. And why up there and. Go ahead.
So basic fact is they are illegal because they registered in Nevada and they don't have any license or any requirements. They didn't pass any examination to keep such a place in California. And also the illegal things is that they have kept at least 20 type of infectious pathogens in that abandoned warehouse without any.
But what are they doing? What do you think they're doing there? What are they up to? This is what I'm trying to figure out.
Exactly what they are doing. I have checked the pictures provided by the court file, and I have did my research. What I can tell you, this is not a functional lab. At least when it moved to this warehouse, I didn't say they want to make the warehouse a functional lab. But what they can do is, if they want to conduct illegal things, it's like if the terrorists want to make some bomb in their garage. You can imagine that it's similar environment. And then they have kept 32 big fridges. Those are very expensive lab fridges and full of bioreagent, chemical reagent, and infectious agents, including so many things can kill us for multiple times. They just keep it there. And for me, I would say, if they don't have any other purpose, no one dare not to go into that kind of warehouse. Okay, if you want me to go there, I will tell you I don't want to get in. I don't know what kind of things will make me infectious in such environment. So I would say, how could they get this infectious agent? Even you want to get some of them, it's so difficult. It requires very strict examination. And how could they keep all these things? They even remove the labels. There are numerous this kind of agents, materials without labels. Oh, this is a malaria sample written in Chinese. They are talking about this is positive malaria sample, blood, including the human serum should be human, serum from India. And the PF positive here means that this is the positive sample against the most lethal malaria type. So that was this kind of malaria has caused over 61 million cases in Nigeria in the past 20 years. So I won't say they are working there. It's more like the hub. The hub temporarily, they want to stock something because the previous bio company called Universal Meditech Inc. UMI somehow filed bankruptcy when American government accused them for doing something illegal. So UMI quickly bankrupted and transfer all these things to the creditor, PBI. PBI said, I'm the creditor. I don't know what they give us. I don't know there are infectious things inside. However, they are lying. Because based on my information obtained from China, PBI, UMI belong to the same owners. And this owner have strong connection with public security of China, which is China's, you can call it police or FBI, and also with the United Front, which is Chinese government's spy or department focusing on overseas and the non-CCP population. So they have very strong connection, and they are using this warehouse. It's more like they are going to transfer or do something in certain other labs, but they want to keep these things here. And we cannot exclude the possibility that we cannot rule out the possibility that they may use this warehouse to do some illegal things too.
So again, I feel a little bit overwhelmed and still very confused. So is you threw out a few different theories. You sort of sprinkled a few in there. Is it your contention that this could be some sort of bioterrorism lab waiting to unleash something?
If you want me to give you the conclusion at the moment, I actually am still looking for the conclusion. But let me talk about the possibility. Okay. The possibility is,
well, give us the range of possibilities, not just the most sinister. Give us the most benign also, right? So give us the range of possibilities. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I would say first, let me tell you what I can confirm now. First, it's not an individual business. Okay. This is not a person who wants to run the sloppy lab and a lack of understanding of biosafety law. Individuals cannot be so capable to obtain this many type of infectious disease agents, materials, plus mouse without surveillance, without known by people. And still they can try to argue with you, right? And also behind this PBI and also the UMI, the so-called bankrupted lab, they all have the very best, the very good lawyers and accounting agent, CPA, based in U.S., folks, especially in Nevada. And those people are already identified by our team. They are very active members and even leaders of CCP spy organization, United Front. And also, when these companies back to China, they belong to a same large group. This large group is involved biotech, medical, and cattle business, and also chemical, international transportation. So when we see this warehouse, when we see there are a lot of abandoned boxes, deliveries come from China, actually, this company back to China is the top company send the material to US, to this place, to UMI. So in a big, large group, companies in China, they have get something from China or from other countries. They deliver to US. Initially, they deliver to UMI, and UMI somehow feel they are under surveillance and they filed bankruptcy. They are gone, and then they just give you a new PBI and said they know nothing. So these are all the things very suspicious. However, if you know CCP style, you will know this is a pattern. This is a pattern to avoid your investigation or postpone your investigation. When the Chinese Communist Party want to do some illegal operations, you can just compare to the cartel. Cartels always do this kind of things, same to CCP. But CCP is more powerful. So I also have identified, as I said, in the same large company, large group, they have the immigration business, which means in China, if you are not the person who have very strong connection, like family members with the police, with the public security, and if your relationship is not strong enough, like beyond the city, even province or national level, you cannot do this kind of business at all. So this company is not just a big group who want to do something by itself. It has to require the national power to get so many infectious agents to US, and also materials, tons of things, and also so many mouse. This mouse, they spent 6 years to develop that. It takes a lot of money. And also, I want to tell you something I haven't reviewed yet. Recently, our investigation pointed out to the very top level CCP experts in biology field, and this is the business related to their family. So let me tell you background information. What does it mean? It means you have a family member who is a loyal CCP top ranking member. That's why CCP trusts you. CCP can give you this kind of political missions. You use your way to create a commercial emperor, and then that will avoid the accountability or investigation by foreign countries.
What do you imagine in your, I know you haven't concluded anything about what these people are doing, and I get you're convinced that the CCP is deeply involved with it. What are they doing? What is this thing? What do you imagine this could be?
Okay, so let me tell you what could be. There could be a lot of possibility. And since this lab already discovered in California near a Navy base, right? And we don't know whether it's the first one or the last one. I don't think it's the only one, because PBI said they have other place can store these things. They ask the judge, allow them to transfer these mouse and materials to the other place they have in US. So I can tell you, like just the image, if a fire explosion happened, And then suddenly you will face numerous outbreaks or even pandemics, and the mouse run away. You don't know what kind of pathogen it carries, and the people don't know what happens. They will get infected. Let me ask you, is this a problem of American government or CCP government? So people, before you do all the investigation, pointed it out to CCP, most of people definitely will think this is a problem that U.S. government should be in charge of. Then at that time, see, U.S. government plus Americans will be blamed in CCP, Russian or their Axis propaganda. You will be the criminals, and however, you are the victims.
Oh, interesting. So this would be our own. It would be our own lab leak. This would be our lab leak, essentially.
Yeah, it will become yours since this is a U.S. company. And also, lack of surveillance. They will ask you why you don't surveillance it. Why don't you know this, right? It's really similar to COVID-19. And also, when it happened, image that this kind of thing, if it didn't happen in an extreme way, it happened little by little. Suddenly, maybe in the East US, some outbreak, and in the border, maybe another outbreak, and somewhere else, well, it comes from nature. Well, especially when this is malaria, TB, tuberculosis, and also meningitis, all these things already exist in the nature. How could you confirm tell people that this is from the lab? And so you will face the nature origin outbreak. You will die in miserable, and you even don't know the truth.
Jeez. Wait, the malaria, you alluded to it being the worst form of malaria, so I'm guessing you're talking about falciparum, right? Malaria? And falciparum does not occur out here. We don't get falciparum, even from the south. It does not.
They will tell you this is from border. They will tell you this is from maybe some mosquito just fly to US without visa. Maybe, and also there is not only malaria. There are dengue, HIV, COVID, HSV, Rubella, and also so many bacteria. And you don't know whether they are modified or not. And you really don't know. So many human samples, you don't know what it is because they remove the labels. And you are CCP's top enemy in the world, okay?
Do you think that our intelligence, or at least our biowarfare infrastructure, is looking at what's in that lab? Do you think we're examining it carefully, or are we able to? Yeah,
I think so. I think even in the court file, they have mentioned FBI and other departments working together. And to be honest, I don't think your intelligence department community would be stupid to believe this is just a sloppy civil lab to make quick money. Clearly, when they look into the problem, it's so serious.
Yeah, it seems more than the average sort of sloppy situation. And I before the break asked you the question about intelligence. Have they been talking to you? Have they been listening to you? I think I asked you last 2 times you've been on this program, is if they're using your information.
I don't know the details happened in the IC, the intelligence community, but I do keep communication with friends or the people working for IC, and I cannot tell many details, but I do have give a lot of evidence to them in a real-time manner.
Good. As usual, it's sort of breathtaking to talk to you. I had the same experience talking to David Martin, which was sort of from a different perspective, which is more about the history and the international nature of bioweapons development and gain-of-function development, and how much more, how deep this runs and how this is going on around us without our knowledge, and that even in the face of this country outlawing it, we've carried on. And strangely enough, one of the countries where we carried this on has now received over $120 billion from us to defend themselves. Interesting. Let me see here. I'm looking at what's that? Go ahead, Kevin.
Dr. Yan, do you think that there are more labs that are like this that are hidden across the country that we're just not seeing, and this is just one that we found?
We know there's
So,
more than one because they're
we-
sending their
we
stuff.
know
They're
that-
sending their stuff to their other sites.
True, right? Yeah, but like ones that
Yeah.
are like illegally operating like this, because I know doing testing on viruses, that's all above board. That happens a lot. But the way that they were handling, and then just the fact that by going through bankruptcy, it appears that another company like inherited all of these controlled substances basically through bankruptcy, which is not the way the system is supposed to work. And I wonder if this is a loophole that has to be closed somehow with these dangerous chemicals. Because like, what if there was a lab that's authorized to do tests with anthrax, and then they go bankrupt? Does the anthrax get passed down to whoever gets their assets in bankruptcy? That doesn't seem right at all.
First, file bankruptcy, but give the business money transfer to your friends and in the same group is the way CCP always use in China or to the other countries. They can avoid of accountability. They can just change another several people and then you cannot trace back to them. And when we talk about more labs, we know the word. When you found one cockroach at home, you know there would be hundreds and thousands. So I won't say this is the only one suddenly found by the local officers and suddenly it's so terrible. So definitely it cannot be the only one. And also based on what I say that this is the more like the hub, they could do some illegal things, but it's also like because they are not regular staffs working there, it's more like they have talked about they are going to build the new factories, build the new labs. So then at that time, they may even acquire the license, but they can do more illegal things beyond that license.
Right.
And they already have their people working here in your universities, in the industries, in CDC, NIH, working on the dangerous things. So if they pass it to certain spies in this kind of organization, and they can carry other things in that kind of legal facilities. So there are so many possibilities. That's why China now start to promote propaganda that this is anti-Asian. If you are talking about this lab and China, this was published by AP News. And this all can tell you that it's not only the individual things. It's not only one thing.
So
Right.
you're a racist. I didn't know that about you. So
I mean, that's
you
the
and Caleb, both you guys are racist.
I mean,
But let me
everyone
ask this.
reporting this
What-
story, according to China, is being racist because it's.
Yeah.
But that's what the
Yeah.
concerning part to me is that even if everything with this was just legitimate, like if the whole story is legitimate, this was just a mistake through bankruptcy and all of that, that's a major national security loophole that's there. That's a big
I would
security
think.
hole.
Well, and so right, and so based on that, I'm wondering where Li-meng, where are we going? Where does this go? All this. What's your sort of what are your predictions for the future? Are we all going to, now that we're aware this is going on, are we going to make it better? Are we going to clamp down internationally? Or is this horse out of the barn, so to speak? Is it something that is so far down the road that it's like whack-a-mole? We're going to be just, constantly, when something comes up, knocking it down, and it's going to get worse.
There are always loopholes. Definitely, we should improve it. We should change it, modify. However, when you do all the things, you should know CCP and their allies like Russian and North Korea, Iran, they are all watching you and they are already prepared to attack you and to destroy you. They have spent so many decades focusing on that, and Communist International exists. So altogether, there are also bad people in US helping them because they have benefits. So altogether, what we want to know is identify your enemy when you try to improve or to change the loopholes. So you should not forget that. You should not isolate yourself. America should insist to be the leader in the world, and also don't give more time to China, to other countries to destroy you, because you give them more time, you have more chance to provide your problem weakness to them. They know you are vulnerable. They will little by little kill you.
One last question before we wrap up. There was a bit of some sort of weird conversation going on our Restream chat here about the fur and cleavage site. My understanding is the fur and cleavage sites do occur in nature, but there's certain qualities on this one that was specific to things you had done research on. Is that accurate?
I myself has done the research provided in my Yin report on the furin cleavage site. That doesn't mean I do it in the lab. So furin cleavage site exists in virus, but certain types of virus. Clearly, COVID-19 coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, this beta coronavirus lineage B, doesn't have furin cleavage site in nature. That's why now so many CCP promoted scientists try to tell you they found something in nature after the pandemic, which would show you the furin cleavage site. It doesn't exist. So this is the smoke gun evidence, and it's not the only part modified in the COVID-19.
It exists in coronavirus subcategories, not in this particular SARS coronavirus.
No.
And then
and
you said there, right. And you had said there were other aspects of this virus. Just want to clarify this before I let you go, that sort of you knew you were had been manufactured because you were involved with it back when people were doing that.
I work with people who involved in this. I myself didn't provide my knowledge or involve into the real experiment. But I can tell you, I have this knowledge, and based on all this knowledge and all these things, I have identified with my team multiple modified functions in COVID-19 virus, more than furin cleavage site, and they would all bring the pathogenesis to people.
All right. Well, have I left anything off the table? Is there anything else on your mind these days? Anything else concerned before we wrap up? I appreciate your time and thoughts. It's always very interesting to speak with you. Is there something that you're worrying about now?
I'm not worried about too much, but I really want people to know that among all your enemies, China is most powerful, and because it is a nation, it has more capacity to do the things individuals or international organizations cannot do. So you really need to realize your enemy is very evil. They are very evil towards their own citizens. They are also very evil towards the foreigners, because humans are just the tools for them, disposable. So in this case, you don't have much time. You really need to focus on eliminate your enemies. Don't be, don't wait for the opportunity. You should be very active. Don't be reactive.
All right, Li-meng Yan, everybody. You can follow her on Twitter. Dr. DrLimengyan 1 is where you can find her on Twitter. And the radio program, where do they get the radio show?
The Voice of Dr. Yan, every Saturday, Sunday, EST time, Eastern time, 4 p.m. on America Out Loud or iHeartRadio. Also, after that, you can listen to it from like Spotify, Google Podcast, and all the other apps for free.
Well, thank you again. I'm sure as I continue, as you say, to unpeel the onion, I will have more questions for you in the future. But thank you for being a great resource for us. And we'll continue to try to come to a deeper understanding of the world we live in. Thank you.
Thank you.
And those of you watching you out on the restream, let me see if there are any last minute questions there. Yes, CCP did target her, as also did the People's Liberation Army, the PLA. So, yeah, the other thing that came up on the restream was people, again, railing on me for saying that the vax have some benefit. I'm not saying that the vaccines were a panacea. I'm not saying the mandates were appropriate. I'm saying there was, like most things in medicine, it's not all one way and all the other. It's a nuanced thing, which is one of the reasons why this whole experience for me has been so disturbing, because, it's never all black and white in medicine. It just isn't. And so for me, the risk reward has come down pretty much in favor of protecting the vulnerable. Up to this point, I really don't know what we're doing right now with the newer variants. Susan just had COVID. It was a cold. My patients have had COVID. I've got Paxlovid. I've got monoclonal antibodies. They don't need the vaccine. And it doesn't clearly cover this variant. And even the measurements against the previous Omicron show it only worked for 3 months and not a minute after that. That was it. And so why are we pushing it? Well, if somebody's really vulnerable and somebody's motivated and had no reaction to the vaccine, okay. I mean, they want to do that. I'm okay with it. But to mandate it and push it still, you're now starting to see the risks of it come into focus, where we're seeing the cardiac risk. If you remember what Dr. Martin said last week, one of the original studies purposes of this coronavirus, or the earlier versions of the coronavirus, was to study its effect on rabbit hearts. It was affecting rabbit heart. So it clearly has a propensity for cardiac tissue. It's something to do with the spike protein. This is not a completely benign intervention. So yes, I'm with you that to be overly enthusiastic is not a good idea, but to try to allow individual physicians to use their judgment and use their assessment of the risk reward to deploy these various measures, vaccine, treatments, Paxlovid. If people want to use other things as well, that's up to them and their doctors. That's not up to me. And they should be free to do so. And it's nobody's business what is going on. Maybe the profession needs to police itself a little bit and its peers. Okay, they should be looking at the literature, and people should be asked to defend themselves. But beyond that, it should not go anywhere else. There's no way other people outside of the profession should have opinions about what somebody's doctor is or is not doing, particularly if the outcomes are good. I'm looking at you guys over on Rumble, the Rumble Rants as well. We appreciate you being there. We appreciate you guys supporting the people that support the show. Tomorrow we have Ivor Cummins in here. That will be at 1 o'clock Pacific time, so we're a couple hours early. And on Thursday, Tom Renz returns, also with Dr. Victory. He says he has evidence, specific evidence, of what has been going on with our bioweapons development and what we have done with sending things offshore, and to what extent these are espionage or counter-espionage activities. On August 22nd, Jimmy Fowler comes in. I didn't see the guest after that. Let's see. And Chris Rufo coming in here. Those are the guests so far. We have a lot of other guests on the deck ready to come, and some people that are going to follow up. I'm hearing that, now I'm blanking on his name, our friend that's living in Hawaii, that's a data guy.
Ed Dowd.
It's been Ed Dowd may be coming in tomorrow or the next day to give a report from Hawaii. I know there's all kinds of crazy stories being reported out of Hawaii. And again, as always, watch, when people have limited access for information, that's when paranoia and that's when theories spiral all over the place. You settle that down with information and fresh air. That's how you get these paranoid thought processes to settle. Anything else is adding to the problem. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, Susan, for producing this thing. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time for Ivor Cummings with Dr. Kelly. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help. So, of course, you can tear this. You can cause patullousness to the sphincter, and that can cause problems. You can cause, the kind of prolapse that people actually make about, and I just look at those prolapse things and just think of it. Tom Segura has played those on the live shows here, and I just think that's a surgical emergency when I look at that stuff. That's like you eventually that's going to cut the blood supply off, and you're going to have to operate on that.
Yeah.
You can tear. I've seen tearing of the rectum. I've seen bleeding in the retroperitoneum because of the tearing. I've seen just all kinds of horrible things.
Yeah.
You can easily do horrible things. Easily. And when you're doing it and when you're not, I don't know what that sort of threshold is.
What point is dangerous? Immediately.
Right.
At any point.